Seriously, could they be any more cretinous? Could there just be one child's birthday, one major event in their so-called private children's lives that they don't exploit, both for money and also to slam King Charles? Like, stop it. He's very unwell. Just stop. Seriously. But that is what happened for Prince Archie's 7th birthday. We knew it was coming, didn't we? Weirdness from Meghan, of course. Creepy photo. 7 years later, she wrote, "Happy birthday to our sweet boy."
Archie turned 7 this week. And rather than simply marking the occasion privately, or even sharing a genuine family photograph without commercial subtext, the Sussex operation deployed the birthday in several directions simultaneously. Some commercial, some reputationally calculated, all of them illustrating the gap between what Harry and Meghan say about protecting children and what they actually do. Let's start with the photograph itself, because it has generated significant analysis. The image posted to mark Archie's birthday has been examined closely by people who track the Sussex content, and multiple observers have identified what appear to be signs of significant digital manipulation. Archie's hair color in the image differs from recent photographs. His arms appear unnaturally proportioned. Harry's hair in the image appears dramatically fuller than his actual current hair, a detail that is immediately obvious to anyone who has seen Harry in recent public appearances, where his hair loss is visible and significant. The image appears to have been adjusted to present a version of the family that does not match what either Archie or Harry actually look like right now. Why would you manipulate a birthday photograph of your own child? The charitable interpretation is vanity. Harry is reportedly self-conscious about his hair loss, and Meghan's preference for how he appears may extend to images she posts publicly. The less charitable interpretation is that the image is not simply a family photograph, but a piece of content designed to present a specific image of a thriving, healthy family in which Harry has not aged as dramatically as his public appearances suggest. Content creation rather than memory keeping. Image management rather than celebration.
It's actually Meghan who can't stand the fact that Harry is losing his hair and it's becoming a big issue. But it's also really weird to just manipulate a picture because we've seen Harry. He's balding. It's gone. You know, this was Harry in 2018, as Nancy Sidley pointed out. Nice try, Meghan. Harry has way too much hair in the photo you posted for Archie's birthday. So look, what we know is there was a huge amount of Photoshop and manipulation going on here.
The commercial dimension makes this even more uncomfortable. The birthday post did not exist in isolation. Within the same period, the As Ever brand sent an email blast to subscribers promoting the birthday candles, candle number 506, named after Archie's birthday of May 6th, described in the marketing as capturing something of his essence. As Tom Sykes pointed out, the birthday post and the candle promotion were part of the same commercial operation. The photograph was content in the service of driving traffic and commercial attention to the As Ever brand. The birthday was a marketing event with a child at its center. This is not a subtle observation. Meghan posted a birthday photograph of a 7-year-old. The commercial operation she runs sent out promotional emails for products named after that 7-year-old within the same window. The connection between the personal content and the commercial content is direct and documented, and it takes place in the context of Harry's sustained public advocacy against exactly this kind of practice. The Harry interview that has been circulating deserves to be engaged with in full, because the contrast with his actual domestic situation is extraordinary.
I'm going to play you a little bit of it, but it's the interview where he said that no parent should be posting pictures of their children. And he also made it clear, though, that people who do, and people who do exploit kids on social media, are wicked and evil. Are you talking about your own wife, Harry? Watch.
Just acknowledge the reality of the fact that there's some really evil, wicked people at the heart of this who want to farm our children's mindset and market it for themselves. There is no free will on social media as it stands.
He described the people who exploit children's data and presence on social media as evil and wicked. He said there is no free will on social media as it stands. He described parents who post their children on social media as making mistakes, and then clarified that they were not mistakes to the social media companies, because those companies had learned how much they could get away with. The framing was that posting children's content on social media serves corporate interests rather than children's interests, and that parents who do so are being exploited by platforms that are themselves wicked. And then his wife posted a digitally manipulated birthday photograph of their 7-year-old, used it to drive commercial traffic to a candle named after the child, and emailed the candle promotion to the As Ever subscriber list within the same few days. The People magazine story adds the final layer. The birthday was also the occasion for a People exclusive, in which a source close to the couple described Harry as intentional about allowing his children to grow into their own identities, about giving them space to be themselves, about doing things differently from how he was raised. And the piece includes a reference to Harry's Australian speech about parenting as an upgrade from one generation to the next, the passage about wanting to improve on how he was raised, about his children being the upgrade. The implication of the people piece and the specific target of it is clear. Harry is doing parenting differently from how Charles parented him. Charles's parenting was something that needed to be upgraded.
A parenting priority shaped by Harry's own experience growing up in the spotlight. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are parents to daughter Princess Lilibet and son Prince Archie, who turned 7 on May the 6th. As Archie celebrates his birthday, a source close to the couple tells People that they are intentional about allowing their children to grow into their own identities. They give their kids space to be themselves, for their different personalities to flourish, the source, Meghan and Harry, says.
This is dressed in the language of self-improvement, another attack on a father who is fighting cancer and whose declining health has been a matter of public record throughout the same period. The vehicle for the attack is a birthday. The occasion is supposed to be about a 7-year-old child. And the People magazine piece turns it into material for a continuing campaign against Charles's reputation as a father and as a man. There is something specifically grim about using a child's birthday as the occasion for an attack on a dying grandfather. It is not that Harry cannot have complicated feelings about his upbringing or about his father's parenting. Those feelings are real and they have roots in real experiences. But the choice to articulate them in People magazine on Archie's birthday, timed to run during the week of the state visit that Charles was conducting with extraordinary courage and dignity, is not an expression of genuine processing. It is a tactical decision, a deployment of personal material for strategic effect. And the child whose birthday it is has no say in how his special day is being used. Now let's talk about Andrew, because the incident near Sandringham is genuinely significant and raises multiple questions that deserve careful analysis. A balaclava-clad man was arrested after apparently threatening Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the name he now uses, following the removal of his HRH status and his formal titles, while Andrew was walking his dogs near the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. The man was sitting in a car, saw Andrew approximately 50 yards away, got out of the vehicle and made his way toward Andrew while shouting at him.
Photoshopped to sell a candle named after them, while also revealing a full-on face shot of the child as a baby. So you can't preach when you're doing the exact thing you claim to be so bad.
Andrew, accompanied by a member of his private security detail, got back into his car and drove away at speed. The man apparently tried to sprint after the car. Norfolk police were called, the man was arrested, and his vehicle was searched for any sign of a weapon. Several things are worth noting about this incident. First, Andrew had security with him. Despite the ongoing questions about whether his security is adequate, he was not alone. The incident was managed without harm because he had professional protection accompanying him. This is relevant to the question of what level of security is appropriate given the current threat environment for someone in Andrew's specific situation. Second, the incident happened on public land adjacent to the Sandringham estate rather than on the estate itself. Andrew had gone beyond the boundary of the property where his primary protection arrangements apply. This is the specific detail that Paula Froelich and others have highlighted. Andrew's security is calibrated for his residence and its immediate surroundings, and when he goes beyond that boundary, the risk picture changes. Third, the question of who leaked this story and why. It was reported by the Daily Telegraph, which has strong palace connections. The leak almost certainly came from Andrew's team, and the probable motivation is to generate public and institutional.
And Harry and Meghan were like, we understand what it's like to be traumatized by your family. But Brooklyn had come out and said, I was monetized from day one. And, you know, he was really upset that his parents basically owned his name, all this stuff. Well, guess what? Meghan and Harry own their kids' names, not by trademarking, because that's illegal, but they own the domain names, they own the emails, they own everything else. Then they also, when turning Archwell Foundation into Archwell Philanthropies.
The source quoted in the piece saying this shows why Andrew's security provisions need to be reviewed is the clearest statement of what the leak was designed to achieve. Fourth, the Harry connection. Andrew's legal team, or more precisely, the informal lobbying that Andrew's supporters conduct on his behalf, will almost certainly attempt to use this incident as material in Harry's ongoing security case. The argument would be, here is a member of the extended royal family, stripped of formal protection, who was threatened by a member of the public on a routine dog walk. This is evidence that the threat environment for people associated with the royal family is real and credible, and that the absence of adequate security creates genuine risk. This argument has some superficial force, but it needs to be engaged with carefully. Andrew's situation is different from Harry's in several specific ways. Andrew is in Britain. He is associated with one of the most significant criminal investigations of recent years, the Epstein connections, the civil case, the ongoing legal and reputational fallout. The threat environment for Andrew specifically may be heightened by factors that do not apply to Harry in the same way. And the incident, a man shouting at him and trying to approach him while alarming, is not the same as the kind of credible, specific, planned threat that would normally justify significant state security expenditure.
People at Fair Play kind of realized what they wanted was money to go through Archwell to go to Fair Play, and they gave absolutely no support, but at the same time, they like to take all the credit.
Totally. Now, there's also lots of weirdness about the pictures themselves, Paula, because you've got to admit there's a huge hypocrisy here given Catherine, Catherine suffering from cancer was hauled over the coals. Do you remember that? Especially by people your way, Paula, in the American mainstream media, it was like she was the devil incarnate.
The Invictus Birmingham question is worth addressing because it connects the security discussion to the upcoming significant event in Harry's calendar. Harry is traveling to Birmingham for the Invictus Games. The security request has been submitted with the required notice period. Paula Froelich's assessment that he will receive security for this specific visit is based on the specific context of Birmingham, which has a particular demographic profile, and where Harry's presence as the author of a memoir that describes killing Taliban fighters creates a specific and credible risk assessment. The security body that makes these decisions will presumably reach its own assessment, but the observation that Birmingham specifically creates heightened risk is not unreasonable. The Meghan threat to attend Invictus is interesting in its own right. The Invictus Games are Harry's most genuine and most credible area of engagement. When he is with veterans, as multiple observers have noted, the authenticity is real, the connection is genuine, the purpose is not performed. It is the one area of the Sussex public operation that exists genuinely independent of commercial calculation. And Meghan's involvement in it, if she attends, which the reporting suggests she is planning to do, converts it from Harry's genuine charitable work into a Sussex joint operation with all the commercial and reputational dimensions that implies.
The veterans at Invictus deserve the authentic Harry, not the Sussex brand-managed version of him. Whether Meghan's attendance helps or hinders Invictus is a question worth asking.
If that's the look you're going for, and I think it is, because remember he mocked William for William's baldness in Spare. I don't understand. Just take a nice trip to Istanbul, come back with a full head of hair, and people will keep it moving. Instead, your wife wants to fluff it up a bit. It's kind of ridiculous. And he also did the same for his book on Spare, where he had to come over and hide the baldness. That's fine. With the kids, here's the deal, Dan.
The Invictus charity scandal that Paula Froelich has been investigating separately is something that deserves careful monitoring as it develops. The mainstream media has not picked it up yet. Independent journalists like Froelich are working through the details. What can be said at this stage is that questions have been raised about financial management and oversight within the Invictus operation. Questions serious enough for Froelich to describe as jaw-dropping once the full picture becomes clear. Invictus is the one Sussex adjacent operation that has been relatively protected from critical scrutiny, both because its charitable purpose is genuine and because attacking a veterans charity carries obvious political risk. If financial management questions emerge that cannot be dismissed, the political protection that Invictus has enjoyed may no longer apply. Let me bring this together and look at the week as a whole, because the Archie birthday content, the People magazine attack on Charles, the Andrew incident, and the Invictus developments all reflect aspects of the same broader picture. The birthday operation is the commercial machine running at its most transparent. A child's 7th birthday, used simultaneously to generate commercial traffic for candles named after him, to produce content for the Instagram account that the fashion platform commissions require, and to place a story in People magazine that attacks the child's grandfather on the occasion of his birthday. All of this happening while Harry gives speeches about the evil wickedness of people who exploit children on social media. The Andrew incident is a reminder that the security question is not just about Harry and Meghan. It is a broader institutional challenge about how the royal family manages risk for members who have had state protection withdrawn. The legitimate question of whether Andrew's current arrangements are adequate is separate from the question of whether Harry is entitled to state security in Britain. Both questions deserve honest answers on their own terms rather than being conflated for tactical purposes. And the Invictus scandal, if it develops in the direction Froelich's reporting suggests,
comes out about how Kris Jenner hasn't been engaged with Meghan Markle's Instagram in a year. And then we get this less than a week later. This is no coincidence. And another example of how Meghan obsesses over her media coverage and claps back as much as possible. And there was this Instagram story from Kris Jenner saying, "Thank you, Meghan, as ever official for the beautiful Mother's Day gifts. These candles smell so delicious. Happy Mother's Day." Now, that was timed in such an interesting way, Paula, and I did go to Kris Jenner's Instagram page. And what was interesting to me is this was amidst about 16 stories and plugs for things, right?
Would represent the most significant potential damage to the one element of the Harry story that has so far been largely protected from scrutiny. Invictus is Harry's most credible legacy. If it turns out that the financial management of that legacy has been less than the veterans who participate in it deserve, the consequences for Harry's reputation and for the cause itself will be significant. The 7-year-old in all of this cannot advocate for himself. He cannot decide whether his birthday is used to sell candles or to attack his grandfather or to generate Instagram content. He can only experience the birthday that his parents have arranged for him, and whatever that birthday actually looks like, away from the cameras and the People magazine exclusives and the candle email blasts. It is presumably just a child turning 7 and wanting cake and presents and the attention of people who love him. Whatever the commercial and political uses to which his birthday has been put this week, he deserves that simple thing. The rest of it, the manipulated photographs, the candle marketing, the Charles attack via People magazine, the irony of his father calling people who exploit children evil and wicked, the rest of it belongs to the adults who have made these choices. Not to a 7-year-old boy who is whatever else is true about the circumstances of his life, simply a child turning 7. Happy birthday, Archie. The rest of it is not your fault. Let me go deeper on several of the specific threads from this week, because they each deserve more careful examination than the immediate reaction allows. The Photoshop birthday photograph is worth dwelling on specifically because it reveals something about the Sussex content operation that has not been adequately examined. The manipulation of Harry's hair in the image, giving him significantly more hair than he actually has, is not a minor touch-up.
He writes this article about how people are just kind of like, they don't want to come out and say, we're done, but, they're done. And then today, an article appears, or I believe it was yesterday, an article appeared in the Daily Mail by someone else who was like, no, none of this is true. In fact, Meghan is being supported by the 4 most powerful African-American women in the world.
It is a deliberate alteration of a person's appearance for the purposes of presenting a specific image to the public. Harry is visibly and significantly bald. His hair loss has been progressing for years and is one of the most immediately recognizable things about his current appearance. Restoring substantial hair in a photograph is not retouching lighting or adjusting color. It is changing what a person looks like. Why does this matter? Because Meghan has built a significant portion of her communication strategy around the idea of authenticity, of being real, of showing the genuine texture of family life, of being unfiltered compared to the managed machinery of the royal family she left. Every time a manipulated photograph is produced under this authenticity banner, the gap between the claim and the reality becomes more visible. And each new instance of digital manipulation makes every previous image that the operation has produced more suspect retroactively. The Archie hair color discrepancy, where the child's hair appears a different shade in the birthday image than in more recent confirmed photographs, adds another element to the picture. Whether this is the result of lighting, processing, or deliberate manipulation is impossible to determine from the outside.
That Nicola Avant hates Meghan Markle. And sure, she was invited to the beef premiere, but come on, there's so much, like Ted Sarandos unfollowed Meghan, didn't want to do phone calls with her again. As you said, it was throwing Meghan a bone. So I was like, this is extraordinary, but I do wonder if Dominique Hines is now being directly briefed by Team Sussex.
Of course she is. And by the way, the reason why the Daily Mail did it, they did it for clicks, because we all know that stuff clicks.
But it contributes to the overall impression of an operation that is managing images rather than sharing moments. And in a communication strategy built around authenticity, the impression of managed images is toxic. The candle email timing deserves its own examination. The As Ever subscriber email went out promoting the birthday candles, candle 506 for Archie, candle 604 for Lilibet, within the same period as the birthday post. This is not a coincidence of timing, it is a coordinated commercial operation. The birthday post was designed to generate emotional engagement and traffic. The email was designed to convert that emotional engagement and traffic into purchases. This is the architecture of influencer marketing applied to a child's birthday. The specific emotional manipulation of this sequence, generating parental and familial feelings about a child's birthday, then immediately converting those feelings into a commercial transaction, is something that the media literacy advocates Harry has aligned himself with have specifically identified as one of the most harmful aspects of social media's commercial structure. The emotion is the hook. The purchase is the point. And Harry has described the people who build these structures as evil and wicked.
Of security, broken by the Daily Telegraph. I want to take you through it. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been threatened by a balaclava-clad man on a dog walk. Now, this happened at around 7:20 p.m. UK time on Wednesday night. Let me take you through this exclusive reporting from the Mail, because this man has been arrested now, Paula. And the Telegraph reports a balaclava-clad man has been arrested after allegedly threatening Andrew Mountbatten Windsor close to his home.
He appears not to have recognized that his wife is doing precisely this, or he has recognized it, and the marriage tension that sources describe is the result of that recognition. Either way, the gap between the stated position and the documented behavior is as wide on Archie's birthday as it has been at any point in the Sussex story.
The People magazine piece on Harry's parenting deserves a specific analysis of its rhetorical strategy, because it is more carefully constructed than it might appear.
The piece does not directly say Harry's upbringing was bad. It does not directly say Charles was a bad father. What it does is establish Harry's parenting philosophy as one shaped by his own experience growing up, and then let the reader do the work of understanding what that implies about the experience. The phrase allowing their children to grow into their own identities, positioned against the backdrop of Harry growing up under intense public scrutiny, implies that Charles did not allow Harry to grow into his own identity. The phrase giving their kids space to be themselves implies that Harry was not given that space. And the direct quote about parenting as an upgrade, our kids are our upgrade. Not to say I upgraded my dad, contains the very criticism it claims to disclaim. This is the Sussex communications operation at its most sophisticated. The attack is embedded in the denial. The criticism of Charles is delivered through the structure of the piece rather than through any direct quotation. And if challenged, the response would be, we never said anything negative about Charles. The source simply described Harry's parenting values.
The king has refused to foot the bill for his disgraced brother's private security after the late Queen withdrew his publicly funded personal protection team, which the Met provided in 2019. A source said, "This shows why Andrew's security provisions need to be proportionate and properly balanced for an individual with a very high profile."
And yet the piece is read by anyone paying attention as exactly what it is. Another installment in the sustained public campaign against Harry's father on the occasion of his grandson's birthday. Now let me address the Andrew situation more carefully, and specifically the question of what his future looks like in terms of security and public presence. Andrew is, by multiple accounts, struggling to accept the implications of his changed circumstances. He is no longer a working royal. He no longer has formal titles in any operational sense. He lives on the Sandringham estate in a property that is considerably smaller than his previous residence, with security that is funded and calibrated for that specific location. He is, as Paula Froelich observed, under a form of house arrest, not in the legal sense, but in the practical sense that his security arrangements are designed around a specific perimeter, and that operating outside that perimeter creates risks that his current protection is not designed to address. The incident near Sandringham, a man in a balaclava getting out of a car and approaching him while shouting, is exactly the kind of event that occurs when someone with a very high profile and very controversial history operates in public without adequate preparation for the specific risks their profile creates. The man was arrested. Andrew was not harmed. The security that was with him served its purpose. But the incident demonstrates, as the source quoted in the Telegraph piece noted, that the current arrangements deserve review, not necessarily that they are inadequate, but that the gap between the protection available on the estate and the protection available once Andrew ventures beyond it needs to be addressed.
How much he is actually hated. And maybe this will bring it home to him. But we know that he has security at Marsh Farm. He had security at Wood Farm. You know, that's what the little outhouse RV thing was for. So, you know, it's just because he can't do exactly what he wants whenever he wants anymore. I mean, cry me a river.
The king, who has refused to fund Andrew's security since the Queen withdrew his police protection in 2019, is unlikely to be moved by this incident to change his position. The institutional assessment that Andrew's situation is the consequence of his own choices, and that the Crown is not obligated to fund indefinite protection for a member who has created his own risk profile through his own conduct, has not changed because of one incident. And the attempt by Andrew's team to use the incident to generate public pressure for a security review is understandable, but is unlikely to succeed in changing the King's decision. The Harry connection to the Andrew incident is the most politically significant element. Harry's legal team will use this. They will argue that it demonstrates the reality of the threat environment for members of the royal family in Britain, that even Andrew, who is not the subject of the same international media attention as Harry and Meghan, was approached and threatened by a member of the public, and that this validates Harry's claim that he cannot safely visit Britain without state-funded protection. The counter-argument that Andrew created his specific risk profile through specific conduct, that the threat to Andrew is likely related to his specific Epstein association, rather than being a general feature of the royal family's risk environment, and that Harry's situation is materially different, will be available to the Home Office's lawyers. Whether the court finds the Harry connection persuasive will depend on how specifically the threat to Andrew can be characterized, and whether it is representative of a general risk or a specific one. The Invictus financial questions that are emerging in independent media are the element of this week's coverage that deserves the most careful monitoring going forward. Invictus has been the one area of Harry's public life that has been largely protected from critical scrutiny. The cause is genuine. The beneficiaries, wounded veterans, and their families are beyond reproach. The governance and financial management of the organization that delivers the games, however, is a separate question from the worthiness of the cause itself. And the questions that Paula Froelich and others are beginning to raise about that governance and financial management deserve honest investigation. If it emerges that the Invictus operation has significant financial management problems, if money intended for veterans programs has been misused or mismanaged, if the governance structures have allowed resources to be deployed in ways that do not primarily benefit the veterans the games are supposed to serve, the consequences will extend beyond Harry's reputation. They will extend to the veterans who have trusted the organization with their participation and their stories. They will extend to the donors and corporate partners who have contributed resources in good faith. And they will extend to the broader question of whether Harry's involvement in charitable operations creates more problems than it solves. This is not yet a confirmed story. It is a developing investigation by credible journalists who have flagged concerns without yet publishing the full picture. But the pattern of the Sussex story, in which questions raised in independent media are later confirmed by mainstream reporting, suggests that these concerns should not be dismissed until the full picture is available. The week ends with Archie having turned 7, with his birthday image manipulated in at least 2 visible ways, with his name on a candle that is being marketed to his parents' subscribers, with People magazine using his birthday as the occasion for an attack on his grandfather, and with his father publicly describing people who exploit children on social media as evil and wicked, and with Andrew, somewhere near Sandringham, shaken by an encounter that his team has promptly leveraged for its potential to improve his security arrangements, and with the Invictus questions sitting in independent media, waiting for the full picture to become available. The machine keeps running, the content keeps being produced, the commercial operation keeps extracting value from every available source, and somewhere in a house in Montecito, a 7-year-old boy is simply 7 years old, regardless of what his birthday has been used for by the people around him.